But Mark, let's move on into our next topic, and we're going from the east of New York all the way to the west of San Francisco, talking a little bit about a quarterback you guys may know called Jimmy
You might
Garoppolo.
not, though, because it's not like he plays.
It's not like he plays. Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy Garoppolo, from the Chicagoland area, so we always got to give Jimmy the Illinois Chicago love for that. But before we get into everything, make sure to rate the Onside Kick on iTunes and Apple Podcasts. I know if you're on YouTube that you still have an Apple ID, so please go over on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star rating. It really helps us out, gets us into the ears of more people. But Mark, let's look at Jimmy Garoppolo. And the question that we are answering today, or trying to ask, is one that you kind of slyly brought up a week or two ago. You said that you mentioned Jimmy Garoppolo, and you're like, hey, you know what? He might be on the hot seat this year. I kind of pressed you at the time and said, I don't think he's on the hot seat. Well, now we're going to get into it. And the reason why we're getting into will Jimmy G be on the hot seat is because, one, like you said, he was injured last year, and the 49ers are paying a lot of money, but also it's because of the contract for Jimmy Garoppolo. So his contract in total is a 5-year contract. He's not up until 2023. However, the 49ers have a decision to make. Let's say Jimmy Garoppolo gets injured again this year. They have a potential out, which would mean 2 years, $60 million. That's around the figures that they'd be paying for Jimmy G over the last 2 years. But they could cut ties after this year and move on. Or they choose to keep him, and then you're stuck with him until 2023. So I'm going to ask you, because of that, because of the injury, because of everything, is Jimmy Garoppolo on the hot seat for this season?
I mean, I don't know if hot seat is necessarily the right word to phrase it, but he
Is he under
definitely
pressure?
needs to play.
Okay.
He has to play. And I don't even know that he has to play a full season, but he has to play more than 12 games.
How
for
well
sure.
does he have to play?
Well, I mean, you can't go out there and throw more interceptions and touchdowns.
Is this a team that has to make the playoffs with Jimmy Garoppolo?
I don't think they have to make the playoffs, but Jimmy Garoppolo can't be the reason they're losing games.
Okay.
He has to go out there and show them that he's worth this kind of investment that they had. They had so much excitement for him in 2017, but I mean, there are areas to be concerned about Jimmy Garoppolo. When he played last year, he was under 60% completion. Both years, he has been almost 1-to-1 for touchdown to interceptions. A little scary. He's never been able to sustain anything. Even when he had his chance with the New England Patriots, he got injured right off the bat, too, with them. So he needs to prove something. And I don't necessarily want to say, well, he's got to throw for 4,000 yards or anything like that. That's silly. He just needs to be good for San Francisco, and he needs to be there. The being there, I think, is the most important part, because they invested a lot. They traded and they signed him with very little proven out of him. It was all just about the hype. It was all just about the potential for Jimmy Garoppolo. And there's plenty of potential there. But as I said, 27 years old, I think, what will he be, 28? 28 in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
So he's 27 years old right now. He hasn't really honestly shown us all that much. He has to show something.
For me, I look at it and I go, the only thing for me that has to happen is he has to not get injured. He has to play this year. Like when you said play at least 12 games, that's it for me. Like if this team...
Even if he throws 30 interceptions and 2 touchdowns.
If this team misses the playoffs this year, even if that... Because here's the thing. Maybe I'm not expecting those kind of numbers because, yes, we saw a little bit of him with Kyle Shanahan, but this is basically going to be year one with him with Kyle Shanahan. Of course, he's been in the quarterback room and has worked with Kyle Shanahan while being injured, but on the field, this is the first year we are going to see him with Kyle Shanahan out on the football field. I think, that is going to benefit him. I think that he's going to be good in the Shanahan system. Also,
it's a very quarterback-friendly system, so I'd hope so.
Also, you have to remember the running back game last year was vastly different than what's going to be this year. They're hopefully
It doesn't matter, Jimmy, from last year. He was only there for 3 games.
No, I know, but like for this team in general, also when Jimmy did start those 3 games, Jerick McKinnon wasn't there. He got injured in the preseason. He'll hopefully be back healthy, looking to revamp himself after a really good year in Minnesota, which got him the contract with the 49ers. Also, they're bringing in a guy that Shanahan had worked with in Atlanta, Tevin Coleman, who is very much a quarterback's friend in the backfield. To me, the question of this team is kind of 2 things. Is what's the running back game going to look like? Can they help support? Is McKinnon going to be back to shape after his injury? How much is Tevin Coleman going to help in the backfield? George Kittle, he was the come-alive story last year for this team. Can he continue that and be a main target for Jimmy Garoppolo?
I mean, he was pretty much the only option, really.
And I'm looking, and he might be, because right now, wide receiver-wise,
They drafted a couple.
Jordan Matthews is okay. Like, I'm going to say that. He is okay out there. I'm not super excited if he's my number 1 target. Yes, they did go into the draft. They got Deebo Samuel, who was a guy who, in our way too early last year, was a top 10 guy out of South Carolina. They also got Jalen Hurd, who's kind of like a wide receiver, running back, kind of hybrid kind of a guy, a skills position guy. But really, it's going to be Matthews, Goodwin, and Samuel, who probably will be your 1, 2, 3, with George Kittle being the main tight end. My question is with the 49ers is there's also, to me, like I said, they don't need to make the playoffs for me to make this decision. All Jimmy Garoppolo has to do is be healthy and play well. But there's also a part of me that thinks this team should be competing for a wild card spot this year. I mean, I don't know if that's too lofty of a goal. I don't know if that's because last year I was really high on this team. But I look at the NFC right now and what we are looking at. And I look at the different divisions. In the NFC, we're probably going to, there'll be 2 teams competing for the playoffs, the Cowboys and the Eagles. For the North, maybe 3 teams, mostly the Bears and the Vikings, maybe the Packers, depending how they can do in Matt LaFleur's first season. Then in the South, really, I'm going to say, 1 team, maybe 2 if the Falcons decide to show up.
There's always 3 teams competing in the South.
Really,
have been for the last 5-6 years.
But what I'm saying is, if they're going to compete, that's going to be for the division. I don't think we're going to get a wild card team from the South this year.
I don't know why not. We have for the last 3 years.
And then with the West, I think the Cardinals are still, even though they got Kyler Murray, they're still going to be in the rear view mirror. I think Seattle's taken a step back this year, and I think San Francisco, is San Francisco, is their goal to shoot for the playoffs, or is it to, hey, we need to take a stranglehold, not of the NFC West, but to put ourselves in a situation to where next year people look at us as the up-and-comer to challenge the Rams, not the Seattle Seahawks?
Well, I don't think anyone's looking at the Seattle Seahawks as an up-and-comer.
No, but I mean, last year they finished, they were the 10-6 team. Yeah, that was a surprise to me. I didn't think the Seahawks were going to have that good of a team, but they're usually been if the Rams are going to be 1, people are going to pick the Seahawks to be 2.
And at least in the last few years now, the Seahawks definitely have kind of fallen off a little bit. I think that the 49ers, to me, you invested in Jimmy Garoppolo via trade and then signing him 3 years ago.
Yeah.
You haven't gotten anything out of it. You got the hot young quarterback, or not quarterback, quarterback, whisperer for your head coach. You invested in that. You have to be successful. He's a guy who just came off of a Super Bowl appearance when you went and got him. You've done so much to kind of build up this team. We have to see something come of it at some point. And it's not to say that this team needs to go and win a Super Bowl right now. They just need to be able to compete for a playoff spot. I don't think they have to get there. They don't have to get into the playoffs for me to be satisfied for the 49ers, but they have to be competing. They go out there and they're a 5 or 6 win team again. I'm going to sit there and say, okay, this isn't working. You got to try something else. And I don't know that the answer is going to be a new quarterback, but I'm thinking that if they are low enough in the draft, there might not be as many teams drafting quarterbacks next year. they might have a good opportunity to get a good young quarterback and say, it's not that Jimmy Garoppolo is bad. We just haven't really had the chance to use him. He's 28 and we can go get a 20-year-old. We're going to go with the 20-year-old.
Well, and that's the thing that I was going to bring up is since Jimmy Garoppolo has been with the 49ers, the 2 draft classes that we have seen, basically 2018's draft class and then 2019's draft class. In 2018, when Jimmy Garoppolo played 6 games, a total of 6 games for that team, they were the 9th overall pick in that draft. This past year, they were number 2. If they are, again, let's say they get the number 2 pick. Let's say for some reason he gets injured and they get the number 1 pick. If they are, like, that's the thing that kind of intrigues me, is with the quarterbacks that we are going to see this year.
Yeah.
If they're a top 10 team, if they are in Tua territory, if they're in Herbert territory, if they're in Fromm territory, Eason, Jalen Hurts territory, depending on how these guys play and how they rise on draft boards by the time we get to the draft, that to me is going to be the interesting part. If Jimmy Garoppolo plays decent but is healthy, he has the job. Like, that's the bare minimum that needs to happen.
You invested enough in him.
But if he gets injured again, or for some reason they have a catastrophic year, and it's like, fuck, man, this ain't going to work, then I would not be surprised if the 49ers say, you know what, it's been fun. We're pushing the eject button,
you think about the fans, too. You know, how many fans sitting out there are like, yeah, we got that good quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo. Who? I've never seen him before. Like when you're talking about not your diehard fans.
Yeah.
They're going to think about, who's this Jimmy Garoppolo guy? Or they're going to say, don't we have a quarterback who's supposed to be good? Who's this Nick Mullins guy? But, you know, you look at these teams, too, and I'm just looking at this as if they do bad and can get one of these young guys. Philadelphia Eagles. Why were they able to get that Super Bowl? Because they had a quarterback on a cheap deal. The Seattle Seahawks, quarterback on a cheap deal. They had a really good team around him. Chicago Bears are trying to make their run for it with quarterback Mitch Trubisky on a cheap deal, spend a lot of money elsewhere. That's why they're able to get a guy like Khalil Mack. You look at what the Rams have been doing and how they were just in a Super Bowl because they were able to put such a big, strong, expensive team around their cheap quarterback. That is the method. That is what people do. That's what they tried. The Redskins are trying to do it. The Giants are trying to do it. The Cowboys are kind of past their chance to do it with Dak Prescott. But you have all these teams that are trying to do the young quarterback and the expensive team. This could be the 49ers' chance if Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't do much this season, quite probably just because of injury. Because I think if he's out there, he'll be fine. Yeah. It's just the injury part if he can't be healthy. The 49ers might say, you know what? We're going to let you be someone else's issue, someone else's quarterback, someone else's whatever. We're going to go with that expensive guy or cheap guy, and we're going to spend our money on everybody else because that is what's been proven to be successful in the NFL recently.
See, and that's what, to me, I'm expecting to happen. I'm expecting Jimmy Garoppolo to play well. If he's healthy, I'm assuming he's going to play well because when I see Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm not sitting there saying that I see like Tom Brady, but I see a good quarterback. I see a guy that you can lean your head on and go, or hang your head on and say, that's my starting quarterback and not have to worry about him. My only question for Jimmy Garoppolo is he going to be healthy this year? And that's the main caveat and I can't really predict. Like, you can predict and say, yeah, I think he is going to be healthy, but no one really knows if he's going to be healthy or not because anything can happen in a game like football. Like, look at even Tom Brady, how healthy he has been. But that 1 year, he gets hit the wrong way, boom, he's out for a year. And this is a guy who never has injury problems. Gets hit the wrong way, boom, he injures his knee and is out. But
it's because he's eating all that, whatever diet and drinking water.
The TB12 diet.
Doesn't use his phone in the bedroom.
I believe Sean bought the TB12 diet book and has been.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Has been diving into some of the TB12 diet.
He stopped, going out in the sun. He's not eating tomatoes, all that type of stuff.
Isn't it? He drinks what's the weird thing with water?
He feels like he will not get sunburnt because he drinks enough water.
That's what it is. He thinks he's not going to get sunburned because
of the amount of water
drinks enough water. But like the big signings that I see for them, like Tevin Coleman 2-year deal, Kwan Alexander, who's a big one on the defensive side from Tampa Bay, that was a 4-year deal. Getting D Ford via trade on the defense and then giving him a contract. But like I look at the other ones where it's like Jordan Matthews, who we talked about, he's only a 1-year contract. So it's like, to me, I think what's going to happen is even if Jimmy Garoppolo has a bad year this year, the 49ers are not going to get rid of him. What's going to happen is he's going to be the quarterback for the 49ers throughout his entire contract, love it or hate it. And what they're going to do is if they are a top 10 pick in this draft, they're going to be in the same mindset that the Jets are going to be in that we talked about moments ago, where, all right, we have Jimmy Garoppolo, let's get him more weapons. Let's get him a weapon in this first round, a wide receiver that we can say, this is our number one.
Except for the fact that the 49ers love to trade back.
Exactly.
So,
but I mean,
and that's the kind of
this year, if let's say they're the third pick and Jerry Jeudy's there, I don't think they'd trade back. I'd take Jerry Jeudy.
I don't know. They love to trade back. They love to trade back, and it hasn't always ended up working out perfectly for them.
They didn't this year.
They did not this year. They had a really easy pick with Nick Bosa.
They ran it up to the podium, as I like to say.
But, you know, the thing with Jimmy Garoppolo that I do always like to say is that we also have to pump the brakes on the hype for him.
Yeah.
Because when you look at his only like extended stretch of playing was that 2017 season with the 49ers. He did well.
That's the role you and I play. I'm the guy that hype, and Mark's the guy that, hey, let's simmer down that hype a little bit.
He did well. He had a couple games where it was like 334, 330, or 381 were his passing yards, but he never threw more than 2 touchdowns in a game.
Yeah.
He almost always threw at least 1 interception in a game. Like I said, he's pretty close to a 1-to-1 ratio in his touchdowns to interceptions. The best thing he had going for him in that stretch was his completion percentage. He had 3 games where he was over 70%. So that's pretty good. Of course, 2 of those teams were Tennessee Titans and the Chicago Bears defense, who in 2017 was getting there, but not there yet.
Yeah.
But still, you know, you have your flashes, but you haven't necessarily had the consistency with Jimmy Garoppolo. So there is a chance that the 49ers could just try to move on from him. It is possible. Nick Mullins was not bad. He looked serviceable enough. You don't want him as your starting quarterback.
No.
But he looked serviceable enough to show that, you know what? Maybe we can do something else about Jimmy Garoppolo if we have the opportunity, if we're high enough in the draft to do it.
See, and I'm looking at the schedule for the 49ers. If Jimmy Garoppolo is healthy, this is all going to be water under the bridge. And the reason why I say that is I'll run down the schedule right down for you, Mark. Like, you know what? Here it is. Here's your 49ers prediction video. I'm going to do it right now. Tampa Bay, that's a win. Bengals, that's a win. Steelers, that's a win. Cleveland, I'm going to say tough one, and it's weird that I brought up Cleveland twice in this podcast, and both these games are going to be on Monday night. That seems like way too many Monday night games for the Cleveland Browns.
Sure does.
This is a brand new Cleveland Browns team. I still believe the 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo could beat the Cleveland Browns because it's in San Francisco, but that would be a really good game. Then a tough one.
You are so overhyped on the 49ers for no reason.
But here's where it slows down. Then the Rams. Okay, the Rams win that game in Las Vegas. The Redskins. Even though Dwayne Haskins is lighting it up in minicamp, I think Jimmy G could beat the rookie in Dwayne Haskins.
Well, if you have the 49ers beating the Browns, they have to beat the Redskins.
So what? That's right now 5 wins. I'm not high on Carolina this year, so that's 6. Arizona is 7. We'll split with Seattle. They're not going to win both of them, so there's 8. Arizona, I'm sorry, they're going to sweep Arizona. That's 9. Then here is where the road gets tough. Green Bay is a question mark, depending how they play. Baltimore is a question mark, depending how they play. The Saints are probably a loss. The Rams, I could see the Rams sweeping the 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo this year. And then Atlanta, that's another questionable one because I expect Atlanta to be better than they were. I expect Atlanta to kind of play up because it's also like we want to beat our old former coach. Also, especially like Matt Ryan being one of those guys. But like I feel like from week 12 on, that's when the pressure starts coming on for the 49ers. And this is going to be a year where it's like they're either 8-8, 9-7, miss the playoffs, or they're 10-6, 11-5, and make the playoffs.
I just can't. I just don't get it. How you can say this team is supposed to be a 10-11 win team?
Because I think the schedule's with a healthy Jimmy G, and with him working with Kyle Shanahan, I think this is an easy enough schedule
I
for
just
that
think
to
it's
happen.
It's not that it's impossible. I just think that they're taking a leap.
At worst, they're 7-9.
I see this
6-10.
as like a 6 or 7 win team.
Okay, so that's my like at worst. Like, oh my god, the Browns beat us. Oh my god, the Steelers.
But
beat
you're
us.
saying the Browns beat us, but you're super hyped on the Browns, and you think that they're a Super Bowl contender.
I know. Like, and that's why I say the whole like. It'll be a tough game.
See,
but if I had to pick
that's
one,
what I
I'd
feel like.
pick the
If you
49ers.
were predicting the Browns, you would say the Browns would win. It's just that you like You like Jimmy Garoppolo, is what it is. You like the Arlington Heights boy.
If he's healthy, I think that, and I'm starting to back off on the Browns a little bit. Like right away when they made that OBJ trade, I was like,
Super Bowl, they won it.
here you go. You're gonna get kissed. But now I'm backing off of it. Of like, maybe let the Browns show me something first.
Why can't the 49ers show you something first?
Yet again, that is so true. They do need to show me something. However, I think that with me and this schedule, I'll say the Browns, tougher game than I made it seem. Even the Steelers, probably a tougher game than I made it seem.
Even the Bengals at home should be tougher. They were good at the beginning of last season.
Yeah. The only thing is they've had some pieces leave. They've also have a new coach coming in, so we'll see how Zach Taylor implements his system with this team. The Redskins to me is one of those where it's like a win. One of the questions too is with Kyler Murray, are the Cardinals again another we're going to sweep them with Jimmy G, or could Kyler Murray steal
Maybe
one?
steal one, yeah.
And to me, I just feel like the 49ers have to get business done in the first 11 games. Because from week 12 to week 17, that's when the pressure cooker gets turned on. It's like, okay, here's your tough opponents. Are you going to be in good shape and be like, okay, we only have to win 2 of these games to get in the playoffs? Or is it going to be like, shit, we got to win most of these games if we want to be a playoff team?
Yeah, and I think that they're going to be in a spot where that Seahawks to Seahawks is going to be very important.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to win the division either. You know, they're similar to the Jets. The division's basically locked away for the Rams. So they really got to compete. And unlike I guess it's similar to the Jets, too. The Jets are competing with the Bills. The Seahawks are going to be right in the way for the 49ers. But the difference is that Jets and Bills, kind of similar levels. When it comes to me, and I'm looking at the Seahawks and the 49ers, Seahawks are a step ahead of you. So you got to catch up.
But the Seahawks, I even wonder, here, I'll ask you this since the Seahawks are brought up. Do you think that the Cam Chancellor and Doug Baldwin subtractions are going to hurt them this year?
Hurt them, sure. I think it'll hurt them, but I mean, they were a good team for the most part last year.
Because last year they were a 10-win team. So does it take a win away, 2 wins away?
Could see it taking. I mean, Cam Chancellor basically wasn't there for the vast majority. I mean, that was the middle finger.
What now? Your number one wide receiver is the combine hero. Is that your number
terrifying.
One receiver now? Is the combine superhero?
That would be terrifying. But you know what? The number one wide receiver is because the number one anything is Russell Wilson's legs.
Yeah, true.
It's just him running around, throw the ball to himself.
I'll ask you this, since you kind of brought up with that. First off, the Cam Chancellor, Doug Baldwin situation. Okay. How many wins, if any, do you think get taken away from the 10 that Seattle had last year?
1 or 2.
So 8 or 9. What if Jimmy Garoppolo plays all 16 games this year? How many wins would you add to their 4 that they had last year?
3. I would call them a 7-win team.
Okay. So with a healthy 16-game Jimmy Garoppolo, they're a 7-win team.
Yep. Rest of the team's not that great.
And then the rest is just did they steal?
And Jimmy Garoppolo just despite winning 6 in a row, he hasn't there's like 1 or 2 games where he truly took it over. But overall, I haven't seen him go out there and just like, he's not Patrick Mahomes, where it's, I don't care what the rest of the team is. He's good. Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, needs a good team.
Yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe, is it kind of like a Dak Prescott situation, but a better quarterback?
A little bit better than a Dak Prescott, I think.
Because like Dak's another thing where it's like, I don't think he's going to win you a Super Bowl on his own, but hey, if you got Zeke and a really good wide receiver out there, then we're in business.
You give him a team. It would be, to me, it's that exact same situation. He's a good quarterback. You put a good team around him. Now he's a great quarterback. I mean, that sounds kind of obvious, but still.
And that's to me what it's going to come down to. The 3 guys I'm looking to: Kittle, McKinnon, Coleman on the offensive side, and then this defense. Adding Alexander, adding D Ford, adding Verrett for a season. Like, is this defense going to give the offense a little bit of a boost so that they can win more games this year? But let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Is Jimmy G on the hot seat? And kind of, what are your expectations for the 49ers this year? It's kind of 3 questions. Number 1, is Jimmy G on the hot seat? Number 2, expectations for the 49ers. And then number 3, the interesting one that I want to see, is if Jimmy G gets injured and you're a top 5 pick as a 49er fan, do you get rid of Jimmy G to get a Tua, to get a Herbert, to get a Fromm, to get somebody in the draft? I want to know what 49er fans are thinking about that last one down below in the comment section.